Morning, everybody. We are on Daf Yud Gimel 13a. We're up to about the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. About 10 lines down. Last word on the line is Abaye. So yesterday we were introduced to this concept. Well, we're discussing if someone who finds a shtar, a contract, a document which has no value in and of itself, it only has value to the parties in the contract, or typically deal with a borrower and a lender. And under what circumstances should you return it to one of them, not knowing if the loan has been paid off? And we were introduced to the concept of a shtar hakna, in which the loan document is signed, witnessed and signed before the money is handed over, before the loan before the loan actually takes place. So what we're looking for is an explanation that you can draw up. Right now we're dealing with drawing up a loan document with the lender not present. If the lender is not present, the implication is that the money hasn't changed hands yet, and yet you can still, we've seen the view that you can still draw up this document and sign it. Abai says, why is that? Eidav b'chasumav zachin. The lien on properties in the document, in the loan document, takes effect when it is signed, when the witness has signed it. Even if it's not specifically written as a shtar hakna, as a document where you actually specifically take possession of the grant the lien before the loan is made. Even if it's not specifically stated, it can be done. And why does Abaye say that? Mishum dekashle, because of the difficulty that we saw. Since these documents that are not a shtar hakna, kilese lamalva bahadei lo kasvina, that you can't write them without the lender being present. So so if that's the case, then you don't have to worry that maybe they did that, like maybe they did write the document without the the lender present. And so he says that in any document, that any document that's signed, that affects the lien, even if the loan didn't take place. So the Gemara says, what about the Mishnah? If you find any of these documents, a woman's divorce, a emancipation document of a slave, a will, or a gift, a document that gives a gift, or receipts of loans, don't return them. Maybe they were written out, but then the parties changed their mind. So let's say, for example, the get, right? The husband writes a get, and then he decides not to give it. So, and then you find it. So if you give it to the woman, she's, never been divorced. The husband never intended to divorce her, or never, actually took that step. So it would cause problems in all these cases if you give the document to the person who was supposed to get it but never got it. Then that would be a problem. So don't return any of these things. So according to Abaye, if the guy changed his mind, right? So what? Like, if according to Abaye, once you write and sign and witness the document, then it takes effect. So the witness is signing the document that puts it into effect. So doesn't that contradict Abaye? So Gemara says, when does Abaye's rule apply? When the document actually got to the to its intended destination, like the get, when the guy actually gave the get, right? Then it takes effect. Well, maybe that's not what Rabbi's really talking about monetary matters. So let's say let's say the gift, right? A gift document. So it takes effect when it's written, but only retroactively, I guess, if it actually ends up being given by the guy who wrote up the document. But if he changed his mind, never gave it, then you don't. Abai was not talking about that. Therefore, the thinking that he might have changed his mind is actually it's a good point, right? You shouldn't give these things back because maybe they never were activated.
How do we know if the person changed his mind?
Well, that's exactly the point. You don't know, right? So that's why you shouldn't give this document to anybody, this document that you found, because you don't know if it ever, if the event described in the document ever took place.
That could be true for any document, not just these 3 or 4 specified ones.
Yeah, yeah, we're I think so. For example, let's say, yeah, maybe a loan document. I mean, other things might be included in these as well. Okay, so now our Mishnah, Al Masnisin Diktani, Masa Sharichog, and Yeshma Machrayis Nechasim Lo Yachzer. So what about our Mishnah, which deals, as you're asking, specifically with loan documents, and it says, when do you not return them? If there's a lien involved. And we already determined that what we're talking about, where the debtor admits, the borrower admits that the document is valid, but the problem is that you might be putting the purchaser of the property that would be under lien, you might be putting them in a bad place, and they might be taking their property where it's not warranted. Because of the date anomaly possibility, right? That they might have bought it when it was not yet under lien, and then then the loan takes place, and then you would collect their property with this document. Bishlam Ravasi, so according to Ravasi, there would be Aknaisa, who says that the Mishnah, the Mishnah that we just quoted, is only talking about the Mishnah about the loan that's where the lender is not, where the lender is not present. That's only when it's a Shari Daknaisa, where it's a contract that's written to give up the property, to put a lien on the property even before the money is lent. So our Mishnah could be talking about ordinary documents, which are not but Abaye, who we just saw, says that in all cases, the document takes effect when it's signed. You don't have to wait till the money is actually handed over of the loan. Michael Maymar, like, why are you concerned about the date anomaly? The date is the date, right? Once the document is signed, anybody who buys the property that is now under lien is taking that risk, right? So there's no situation where you could be putting somebody out, putting out the buyer improperly, right? Because if they bought it after the date on the document, then indeed the lien was in effect. In our Mishnah, the reason that you would not return the document to the lender, even when the borrower admits it, because there's a possibility that the loan was paid, and there's a conspiracy between the lender and the borrower to seize the property that was purchased while under lien. Okay, so in other words, maybe this is all a scheme. Maybe the money was not really repaid, but it's a scheme to cheat the um, buyers out of their property, and that's why you shouldn't give back the document. Now, Shmuel the Amar Lo Chashin Lepurim Kamiya, but Shmuel holds that there's no such suspicion. We don't make the rules with the suspicion of this kind of collusion. Michael Amemar. So, what would you say? Hanicha Yisabra like Ravasi. So, okay, if you hold like Ravasi, Damar Vashtari Hatna, that the Mishnah that says that you can have a document even if the lender isn't there. So that could be talking about Shariach Nas, specifically about where the lien property is put under lien immediately. Okay, so our mission is talking about regular documents that are not Shariach Nas. But if he holds like Abai, there I know that says all contracts are like that, like Lamemar. So what would Shmuel say? If so, we've tried to answer that. We're worried about this collusion, right? A possible collusion between the borrower and the lender to cheat the buyer of the land, of the lien, of the land that's under a lien. But Shmuel says we don't act on those suspicions. So how does Shmuel answer it? So Shmuel Makin almost Nisin Kishain Chayv Moda. Oh, so Shmuel would say our Mishnah is when the borrower does not admit. Okay, so that's why you don't give it back, because the loan itself is under dispute. The borrower, the supposed borrower, says it never happened. I never. He disputes the loan, or disputes the idea that he is responsible for this loan, that it's still unpaid, and that's why you can't give it back to anybody, right?
So then he
Because it's
obviously
under
couldn't
dispute.
sell it then, right? Then he
I'm
would, if
sorry.
he denies it, then he obviously wouldn't have sold it to a third party, right? The land, he wouldn't have sold it then in that case because he didn't
Oh,
have
well,
it.
no, we're not even worried about the buying and selling. The reason that our mission says don't give back this document if you find it is because the money is under dispute, right? We tried to say that it's talking about where everybody agrees that the loan is payable and we're worried about the buyers of the lien, right? But Shmuel could say, no, that's not the problem here. There's nothing to do with buyers of the lien. It has to do with, is the loan, you're giving this document to someone to prove that there's a loan where that's actually under dispute. You don't know the facts, so you can't give back the document to one party or the other.
But so that in this case, there's obviously no collusion.
Right. We're not even worried about
Right.
about any. There doesn't even have to be a buyer in this case,
Exactly.
right? We've constructed the case with a buyer, but we don't even need to do that according to this view, this kind of attribution of Shmuel. So Yahachi, so the Gemara says, well, wait a minute. So that's what we're talking about. Then why would the Mishnah say you should give it back if there's no lien, right? The fact that the Mishnah distinguishes between a case where there is a lien or there isn't a lien indicates that we are concerned what our real concern here is for the buyer of that property. Sure, you can't collect from lien property, but you can still collect the loan, right? Like, there's no problem with a buyer, right? But the case is really between the borrower and the lender. And does the borrower or owe the lender money? And so you giving this document to the lender would give him a proof that may or may not be true. And that's why. So why would the Mishnah say that you should give that one back? So Shmuel Tame, so Shmuel would be consistent actually. Shmuel Omer Hoyer of Meir. Shmuel said that Rav Meir would say a contract, a loan document without a lien. Ain't go v'lo mishabdei v'lo nechare. If there's you can't, it's not a valid basis for collecting the money, whether whether in cash or from land under lien. The document doesn't do you any good. So then if it doesn't work, why should you give it back? Like, why bother? Why bother giving it back if it's not useful to collect from? Like, you can use a paper for something. I mean, I mentioned yesterday that, depending on what it's written on, if it's written on vellum or parchment or something, that actually could be reused. Here, the Gemara is proposing you can use it to stop up a bottle, right? It does have the paper has value. So even if it's not valuable as a document, it's still valuable as a piece of paper. And that's why you should return it. Okay. Okay, so you're saying there's value. How do you decide who to give it back to? Why give it back to the lender? Give it back to the borrower. Maybe it's his. So the answer is because in our scenario, it's the borrower that's saying there was never a loan here. So he's forfeiting his right to this document because he's saying it's forged, right? It's not, it's a forged document. I never, had any involvement in it. So why would you give it to him? Obviously, you give it to the lender. Who claims that this is a valid loan, that indeed this was my document, and even if I can't use it to collect from, at least I can have the paper back. Okay. Machlokas b'shein chayiv moda. The argument between Rav Meir and the Chachamim is where the borrower doesn't admit that he owes the money. Rav Meir suffer because Rav Meir holds shtar shein b'achrayis nechasim, a document without a lien in a govelom shabde v'lomim nechari. He's of this opinion that it's not useful for collecting at all. In any case, the rabbis say that the document is worth something. Okay, so if it doesn't have a lien mentioned in it, and then somebody buys somebody buys the property from the borrower, that guy's in the clear, right? He bought it, it's a full sale, there was no lien. So that property cannot be confiscated by the borrower, by the lender to repay the loan. But cash in his bank account, right? Or property that he owns that it was not sold, you can use the document, this loan document, to collect. Aval kishachai. So that's the machlokas between Rav Meir and the Chachamim. Aval kishachayev moda. But when the borrower admits the debt, then sure, return the document. Don't worry about what we mentioned before, the collusion possibility. Rabbi Yochanan says, "Machlokas kishachayev moda." When are the Rav Meir and the Chachamim arguing in our Mishnah where the borrower admits the debt? So it's Rav Meir who says that the document is useful to collect the loan, not with a lien, but just to collect the loan in general. And the rabbis would say you can even collect from lien property. But when the borrower does not admit the loan, there you have to don't return it because maybe the loan was paid. I mean, this is the most obvious case, right? That maybe the loan was already paid back. And so this is an old document. It's not valid anymore. The money was paid back. If you return it to the lender, then he would use it to collect a gain, which would be improper. And that's why, since you don't know, you should not return the document. I think of Rabbi Yochanan, and we have a brisa that accords with Rabbi Yochanan. And it is a problem for Rabbi Lazar on one point and Shmuel on 2 points. What is this brisa? You find a loan document that has a lien in it. Even though everybody, the lender and the borrower, agree that the debt exists and the document belongs to the lender and should be returned to the lender. Don't return it to anybody. But ein b'hem achrais nechas. So obviously, because we're concerned about the buyer of the lien property, as we've seen. Lo yasser lo lezev lo lezeh. Sorry, yeah. Ein b'hem achrais nechasim. But if there is no lien in the document, bisman shalov amoda, when the borrower admits that there's a loan and that he still owes the money, yachzir malvet, then give it back to the lender. Ein olov amoda, but if he doesn't admit it, lo yasser lo lezev lo lezeh. Don't give it back to anybody because you don't know. Divur Rameir. Shayar Rameir, because Rameir said, "Shtari sheish b'hem achrais nechasim, govim nechasim mishubadim, v'sheim achrais nechasim, govim nechasim b'nei charim." Because Rameir is of the opinion this is where exactly what Rav Yochanan said a minute ago, that Rameir holds contracts that have a lien in them, you can collect from the lien property. But if there's no lien in the document, then you can only collect from property that's not under lien. But the rabbi say, in all cases, you can collect from lien property, even if it's not specified in the document. So that, of course, was Rav Yochanan, and it is a problem for Rabbi Lazar. The Amar Rabbi Meir, because Rabbi Lazar we just saw says that attributes what Rabbi Meir says, or he attributes this view to Rabbi Meir. Shtarsha ein bo achrayis nechasim, a contract that has no lien in it. Ein agav min nechasim mishubadim, v'lo min nechasim b'nei charim. You can't collect from any property. And Rabbi Lazar also says that we're not worried about the collusion problem. So then this brisa makes no sense. So ubraisa katane, and but the brisa, the brisa teaches that shtar shein bo achrayis nechasim imshav dehud lo gave hamim necharim migva gave. The katani bein l'rameir bein l'rabban chashin l'knunya. The brisa says that we do worry about this collusion. Viktane alpha pisha shnei amodim le'asher lo lezeh. And we see that because that brisa says don't give it back, even if they both agree there's a loan, because we're worried about the buyer of the property, and we're worried about a conspiracy to defraud him. So we do see that we do worry about this conspiracy, contrary to Rabbi Lazar. So now the Gemara says, wait, v'hatani tartehu. But wait, you said there were 2 points of disagreement with Rabbi Lazar. What's the second one? Chadahu, actually, that was poorly worded. It's only one point that Rabbi Lazar is being refuted here. The Chad Tamhu, because there's there's one reason for these 2 things, meaning because Rabbi Lazar puts himself in this corner kind of by saying that that our Mishnah, the disagreement is when there's no admission of debt. So that's why he has to worry about the collusion. And so it's really like 2 points on which Rabbi Lazar is being refuted. Now, Tifta the Shmuel B'tarte, and how is Shmuel refuted by this brisa? Chadak Rabbi Lazar. So first of all, like Rabbi Lazar, which we just saw, because Shmuel, just like Rabbi Lazar, says our Mishnah is where there's no admission of the debt by the borrower, and that's when you don't give it back to him. But you make the distinction between lien and not lien. And the other one is the Amar Shmuel, Matzah Shtar Hakana B'Shuk Yachzer L'Balim. Shmuel says elsewhere that if you find one of these Shtar Haknas, with this shtar which specifically states that the lien takes effect even before the money is lent. So if you find one of these in the marketplace, return it to the owner. Don't worry that maybe it was paid already. And tufto. So what is the how is the brisa differ from Shmuel? Because here the brisa says alpha pisha shnei amodim, even though they both agree that the loan is still in effect and the money is still owed. Don't return it to anybody. And so looks like we are concerned that that maybe he's admitting that there was a debt in the first place, but it was already paid. Certainly, where he doesn't even admit that there was that that he still owes the money, that you have to certainly be worried about that maybe he did actually pay it. So that is against what Shmuel said, that even where the borrower denies the debt, you still return it because you don't have to be worried about that maybe it was paid. Okay, so that was a little head spinning, but I think it kind of fully fleshes out all the possibilities of what kind of document we're talking about and what are the various views about the rules for these documents and liens and conspiracy theories and whether we're concerned if it's paid or not. You've got a view just that incorporates just about every possibility, both sides of every possibility. So we will stop here for today, and David will pick up tomorrow.
Good day.
Have a good day, everybody.
Good.